Good day, all. This talk will briefly examine the cultural phenomenon of superheroes. I shall begin by providing some historical background. If anyone tries to tell you that superheroes are just a modern fad, a brief flash in the pan, you can tell them that they could not be more wrong. The very oldest known work of literature in the world is the Epic of Gilgamesh, written on clay tablets in Mesopotamia over 4,000 years ago. And the oldest known work of literature in the English language is the Epic of Beowulf, written in England over 1,000 years ago. Both Gilgamesh and Beowulf were superheroes. So superheroes have been part of global culture literally since the dawn of civilization. Superheroes are the best of us. They embody humanity's best traits: courage, strength, wisdom, and nobility. They have superpowers which make them physically superior to the average person, but they're also heroes, which makes them morally superior, willing to put their own lives at risk to help others. They are idealized characters, symbols of what humanity could be. I think that their ultimate appeal is that on some level, everyone wishes that they could be a superhero. Historically, superheroes began with two archetypes, the strong man and the wise man, which later evolved into their female counterparts, the strong woman and the wise woman. This means that the first superpowers were super strength and super intelligence or genius, and they remain the most common superpowers to this day. The first superhero was the strong man because superheroes began as exaggerated versions of real-life heroes. And the earliest real-life heroes were war heroes. They became heroes by winning the war. In early tribal societies, the war chief was normally the tribe's strongest man. And he would cement his heroic stature by personally killing more enemy soldiers than anyone else. However, as tribes grew into nations and wars were fought between large armies, individual strength became secondary to an understanding of military tactics. And so the wise man took over from the strong man. Sometimes the two would form an alliance, in which case the wise man was always in charge, with the strong man as his strong right arm or enforcer. In agricultural societies, superheroes like Gilgamesh most commonly came from the aristocracy and, like Gilgamesh, were often kings. In social terms, the aristocracy were the superheroes of agricultural societies. Compared to the peasants, they had superior diet, exercise, and military training. This made them bigger, stronger, and better fighters. They could also afford horses, armor, and metal weapons, while the peasants had sticks and stones and pitchforks. This allowed the aristocracy to conquer the peasants and establish themselves as a military elite. Since most military officers came from the aristocracy, this meant that most superheroes did also. This helped to justify their rule, creating legends of aristocrats with superhuman powers strengthened their social position. potentially deterring both peasant revolts and attack from neighbouring aristocrats. Modern superheroes differ from ancient superheroes because society has changed. First of all, in modern society, the aristocracy is obsolete. Yes, we still have the British monarchy and a few others in Europe, but in practice their social position today is that of a tourist attraction and soap opera. The aristocracy were the ruling class of agricultural society, but industrial society needed a new ruling class, the capitalists or business class. And so, although there are still a few modern superheroes who come from the aristocracy, like Wonder Woman, who's a princess, most do not. And where ancient superheroes provided ideological support for the aristocracy, modern superheroes provide ideological support for the capitalists. We see this most clearly when billionaire businessmen like Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark use their money to become Batman and Iron Man, and then risk their lives to protect ordinary people. Not only are they portraying the ruling class as heroes, but by catching criminals that the regular police cannot catch, they demonstrate the superiority of private enterprise over a state-run service. Superheroes, to some extent, symbolize the super-individuals of our time, corporations. Alongside these differences between ancient and modern superheroes, there are, of course, also similarities. First of all, it all still begins with the strong man and the wise man. The most famous modern superheroes are Superman and Batman, the modern strong man and wise man. Although there are now many other superheroes with many different types of superpowers, super strength and super intelligence remain the two most common powers. However, once these two archetypes made the transition from mythology to fiction, they went through a process of evolution, with several different subtypes of each emerging. The strongman has evolved into the science fiction strongman, like Superman, the jungle strongman, like Tarzan, the funny strongman, like Popeye, and the funny jungle strongman, like George of the Jungle. The wise man has evolved into the magic man, like Doctor Strange, the high-tech man, like Iron Man, the mystery man, like the Shadow, and the science fiction wise man, like Doctor Who. Each of these has their less well-known female counterparts. The strong woman has evolved into the science fiction strong woman, like Supergirl, the jungle strong woman, like Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, the funny strong woman, like the Red Tornado, and the funny jungle strong woman, like Cheryl the Jungle Girl. The wise woman has evolved into the magic woman, like the Scarlet Witch, the high-tech woman, like the Wasp, the mystery woman, like the Woman in Red, and the science fiction wise woman, like Saturn Girl. In addition to super strength and super intelligence, many of the other superpowers of modern superheroes go back to ancient superheroes, particularly ancient Greeks. Superman's invulnerability goes back to Achilles. The Flash's super speed goes back to Hermes. Thor's control over lightning goes back to, well, Thor, and before him, Zeus. The power of flight, held by many modern superheroes, goes back to the Boreads of the Argonauts, to Judeo-Christian myths of angels, and then ultimately, of course, to birds, and so on. Although new superpowers have been created based on modern inventions, such as Daredevil's radar sense and Plastic Man's ability to stretch his body like plastic, most modern superheroes are updated versions of ancient superheroes. To understand modern superheroes, we have to understand the originals on which they're based. I would argue that the first modern superhero was a wise man, Sherlock Holmes, who debuted in 1887. While Holmes had no superpowers other than his superintelligence, he established the basic social role of the modern superhero, that of a special assistant to the police. He was the first superhero crime fighter. Holmes has been portrayed in the electronic media more often than any other fictional character. And when he's been portrayed well, as for example by Basil Rathbone and Benedict Cumberbatch, he is not only clearly the smartest person in the room, his thinking is visibly on a higher level than that of everyone else, including the audience. True superintelligence or genius. Although Batman has claimed the title, I would argue that Holmes is still the world's greatest detective. However, Holmes first appeared in British magazines and novels, while the true superhero explosion took place in US comic books. It began with the debuts of Superman in 1938 and Batman in 1939, both just before World War II. The war helped the superhero boom, as some superheroes joined the war effort, and so superhero comics were very popular with American soldiers. Superman and Batman became the preeminent modern strongman and wise man, and were followed by many other superheroes. Of course, the most famous modern superheroes are those that DC has grouped into the Justice League and that Marvel has grouped into the Avengers. DC and Marvel have dominated modern superheroes from the very beginning. DC, originally called National Allied Publications, or NAP, published its first superhero comics in 1938, and Marvel, originally called Timely Comics, did so in 1939. This was the beginning of the superhero boom. While there have been and are other superhero publishers, it is these two companies that have taken superheroes to their current level of popularity. While they have, of course, continued creating new superheroes to this day, their most popular characters were created in two brief creative spurts, from 1938 to 41 and from 1961 to 66. These years form the core of what are now termed the Golden Age and the Silver Age of superhero comics. In the Golden Age, DC led the way, introducing Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and others. In the Silver Age, Marvel took the lead, introducing Spider-Man, Thor, the Hulk, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and others. These Marvel superheroes were mostly created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, a writer and artist working together, as with most modern superheroes. Stan the Man Lee became the face of Marvel and the real-life face of modern superheroes. His cameos in the Marvel movies cemented his place as a cultural icon. DC and Marvel have kept their main superheroes popular by instituting a policy of reboots. Whenever sales start to flag, they wrap up all their storylines, cease publication of their current comics, and start again from issue number 1, having made some minor but significant changes to the superheroes. Often, the superheroes will be assigned to new writer-artist teams, which gives them a new story direction and a new artistic style. Reboots have successfully revived sales for both DC and Marvel several times now. Despite going through such ups and downs, superhero comics grew in popularity through the 20th and 21st centuries. In addition, superheroes swiftly made the transition to the electronic media, radio, movies, and TV. For example, Superman first appeared on radio in The Adventures of Superman, which debuted in 1940, in the movies in Superman and the Mole Men, released in 1951, and on TV in Adventures of Superman, which debuted in 1952. However, their popularity remained limited due to the difficulty of portraying superpowers convincingly on the screen. This changed with the invention of computer-generated imagery, CGI, in the late 20th century. The first superhero movie to use CGI extensively was The X-Men, released in the year 2000. It was a game changer which came right at the turn of the century. So, where superheroes in the 20th century were primarily seen in comics, in the 21st century, they've been primarily seen in movies. This has greatly expanded their audience and also made them much more profitable. For example, Avengers Endgame earned over $2.8 billion. As a result, Disney bought Marvel and AT&T bought DC. Superheroes have become big business, so they're mostly owned by two of the biggest businesses in the world. Superheroes are part of the entertainment industry. This means that they serve the social function of entertainment. Superheroes are fun. They take us away from our daily cares and take the imagination for a joyride. However, entertainment does not just entertain. It also serves other functions, such as socialization of children. Kids love superheroes, and superheroes provide role models and morality tales for them. They provide the lesson that good always triumphs over evil as long as you're prepared to make a heroic effort. You may not have the strength of Superman, but you can have his strength of character. Be a superhero. Some people have even taken this message literally and carried it into adulthood. The 1990s saw the birth of the real-life superhero movement, where people dress up as superheroes and perform services like Neighborhood Watch or distributing food to the homeless. More broadly, superheroes inspire us. They show that we can be more than we are. They are our dreams personified. We want to be stronger, smarter, better than we are. Such dreams must first exist in the imagination before they can exist in reality. Superheroes live on the outer edges of our imagination, pushing back the boundaries of what we consider possible. They transcend the everyday and take us into a world of limitless possibilities. As Superman said, they take us up, up, and away. That concludes this brief look at how superheroes work. A transcript of this talk is attached if you're interested. Good day.